city of Maricopa, from the front office to the building inspectors, fire marshal, fire inspectors. It's gone really smoothly. So here in Maricopa, you guys have done a great job, and it's been a great project so far.
And I know some people may be worried that the shelves are empty right now. So when can we expect the actual groceries and everything to be delivered?
The next big step for us here inside the store is going to be to start stocking dry goods. So things are going to start happening real quick.
Okay. Final question. Everyone's really want to know, when is Sprouts going to be open?
Well, I hope you're here the 25th so that you can get your tuna salad.
I will definitely be here, and I hope to see all of you here. For all the latest developments and great things happening with the city of Maricopa, please check out what'snewmaricopa.com. Last week, the city of Maricopa came together for the largest community cleanup campaign in the city's history. Individuals from all walks of life rallied and walked throughout their community.
Test, test.
Oh, he was. I trained Marine fighters. He was one of those fighters. He's 8 to 12.
Test, test, test. Check 1, 2.
You said I'm the king's cousin. Welcome you to the City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. This time we'd call the meeting to order and please ask Pastor Kevin Teeling from the Door Church of Maricopa. Please come forward. He'll give us our invocation this evening. Please press the little button on the bottom of that, and there's a little green light. You'll know it's on. Afterwards, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilmember Amber Learman. Would everybody please rise?
Let's bow our heads to pray. Amen. Father in heaven, we thank you for your grace and mercy and for all that you've done for us. We thank you for the truths that we're celebrating this month, that you sent your son Jesus Christ into the world to save sinners, that he's died on the cross for our sins and has risen from the dead, and we rejoice in that. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be in a nation that has experienced the blessing of freedom. We thank you for lawful governments that care for their people, and I pray for this meeting tonight, Father, that you would give grace to our mayor and vice mayor and to the council, to all the others who are engaged in public business. I pray for our first responders and our law enforcement officers, that they would be blessed and protected as they serve their community. Father, I thank you for your grace, even in troubled times, that we don't experience these things directly, God. And I thank you for your grace that's keeping us in our nation through these troubled times. But I pray most of all that you would draw us to repentance, that you would bless this city with a revival of repentance, God. And that as the business is conducted tonight in this meeting, that you would be present here among us, that you would confirm your grace to us, God, and that you would make it manifest what you've said in your word. Blessed is that nation whose God is the Lord. We thank you for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Nice. It's kind of special.
Thank you very much, Pastor. We appreciate it. Before we move to the roll call here, Councilmember Wade is with us via telephone. Thoughts and prayers are with you, Councilmember Wade, as he has a sick family member who's away from us this evening. But we appreciate his participation, and if I forget about you, please just get my attention, and so we appreciate it. That'll take us to Vanessa for the roll call.
Councilmember Learman.
Here.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Vidiello. Here. Councilmember Wade.
Here.
Vice Mayor Manfredi.
Here.
Mayor Price.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. At this time, there are no proclamations, acknowledgments, and awards, so we'll move to item 4, which is the report from the mayor and council members. Council members, anything at this time you'd like to report on? We'll start on this side. Councilmember Marsh.
It's been a month since our last meeting, and on March 2nd, a bunch of us from council attended the county supervisors meeting where they voted on our new redistricting map, and we united our voices strong enough that we got a good map. They basically divided the county into 4 quadrants plus a little node for the high density population in Queen Creek, and it looks good. I hope they stick with it. On the 3rd of March, I attended the Council on Foreign Relation, where they spoke about issues with Russia. I met with Judith Zymont and accepted her resignation from the City Arts Committee to focus on her profession, which is composing music. She has some new compositions that are going to be played worldwide in the coming years. I want to thank her for her hard work on our commission. On the 5th, I attended the Maricopa Master Gardeners annual plant sale at the UA Agricultural Center. And I want to express thanks to the Master Gardeners for bringing hundreds of healthy plants to our backyards. On the 8th of March, I attended the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority Board meeting and the Maricopa Community Advocates meeting. On the 12th, attended an organizational meeting for the police volunteers block watch at the library. They're restarting the program. If anybody wants to get involved, contact the police department. On the 14th, I sat in on the PRTA online board meeting. On the 18th, the Pinal Partnership meeting, the topic was roads, and the 347 was certainly mentioned. On the 21st, the age-friendly meeting was exciting because Carol Mekovic is back. She tried to move away from Arizona but was drawn back, and she's been a heavy hitter on our age-friendly committee. And it's my understanding that Vanessa Bueras has taken over management of the library, passing it off from Nathan. So congratulations, Vanessa, on the new assignment, and hope you have fun with it. On the 25th was the Friday night Copa cultural event at Copper Sky, and I want to pass congratulations on to Ellen Buddington and Brenda Campbell and the staff for the excellent job they did organizing that. It was perfectly sized, perfectly run. It was a great event. And on the 28th, I attended a rather uneventful P&Z meeting. And on the 21st, I met with Brandy Hughes regarding a photo scanning project. I'm trying to get the library and the senior center set up with photo scanners so you can bring all those shoeboxes full of photos in and digitize them and put them on a memory stick and not have a closet full of old photos. And that's about it.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. Councilmembers on this side, anyone? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I guess I'll say something since no one else wants to. Bob over here just mentioned the plants, and in my backyard, my wife said enough now because it's my first year ever planting anything, and I have tomatoes growing all over the place. So it was the plant sale that made that happen. But the big thing was the redistricting that you mentioned, and I just wanted to thank again Nancy for all her work on that. Without the work that Nancy did, we would not have had the results that we had. So thank her again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And likewise. Yes, Councilmember Learman.
I just want to echo the neighborhood watch meeting that Bob brought up was really well attended. They had informative speakers and motivated community members ready to partner with the police department. And if you're interested in attending the next meeting, it's at the library on Saturday, April 23rd at 2 o'clock. So please come and join us. Also, the Copa Cultural event was incredible. It was a beautiful evening, great entertainment, lots of art by local artists there, so it was just really a great family event. On April 1st, I attended the American Cancer Society Maricopa Relay for Life's first planning meeting for the event this year, scheduled for November 5th. If any of you are interested in joining our planning team, we would love to have you. And our next meeting is going to be Thursday, April 28th at 6 p.m. I attended the Maricopa High School JROTC Military Ball. It was an honor to be invited. It was a sold-out event with amazing speaker, Sergeant Major Billy Zinnerman. I was so impressed with the cadets that were there, and there were a lot of strong leaders there. Colonel Kirksey, Chief Burton, and our council member Henry Wade was there as well, so it was just a great evening. And then tonight, I just wanted to recognize two groups of people. Today is April 5th, which is Gold Star Spouses Day. Today is a day to recognize a husband or a wife whose spouse passed away while serving in the U.S. military. They are survivors of the fallen. Surviving military spouses share many experiences after the loss of a loved one, and I wanted to be sure to recognize any Gold Star spouses living here in Maricopa. And then lastly, April is also the month of the military child. And during the month of April, the Department of Defense honors the sacrifices of the youngest members of their team by observing the month of the military child. The theme this year is military children and youth standing strong and proud. And I'm aware of many of our youth here in Maricopa that are military children, and I just wanted to recognize their sacrifice tonight as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Videla, anything? Councilmember Wade, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please proceed.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Yes, I just wanted to also recognize the hard work of the City of Maricopa staff, including Ellen and Brenda, for the effort that they put, not just the effort, the outstanding support that was given for the Copa Cultural Night market. It seemed that it was just a perfect storm of good things. It was good weather, good music, good food, good people, and look forward to doing it again. Based on the reaction from other citizens, it's a good thing to do. I also attended the Air Force ROTC ball, and I too was impressed with the young men and women in their uniforms and those who chose not to, but dressed up very nicely. It was a nice event. It was kind of good to be home for, an Air Force retiree. And then actually April is also Fair Housing Month, and so there are issues at hand that people have to suffer with. Maybe landlords that are a little unscrupulous, or things that don't get done because of folks not paying attention, or people not even being able to purchase or rent a property because of the irresponsibility of those who might want to stop them from that. So I want to celebrate April as Fair Housing Month. And then I attended the Maricopa Council or Music Council or Circle on Saturday, and it was a great event with an opportunity for the Circle to display or put on show tunes from back in the 50s up to Star Wars. It was a lot of fun. And then I noticed that among the children that were attending, when the Star Wars started, they didn't look bored anymore. They looked like they were actually enjoying themselves. And so it was a lot of fun to see that take place. And then finally, I attended on that same Saturday. It's that time of year, folks. We know a birthday celebration, but more importantly, a fun drive for Maricopa Pantry. As we all know, Maricopa Pantry was destroyed by fire here last week. And certainly the city of Maricopa will come together, and we will rebuild, and we will be able to support those families out there. I understand it was up to 1,200 families coming through to pick up food and what have you at its peak right before the fire. So want to say blessings out to Alice and Jim Schultz, and be there with you, Jim, to try to make something good out of something that was a tragedy. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Councilmember Wade. Appreciate it. I'll finish up as well here with a few things. Obviously, March was a very, very busy month, a lot going on. I attended the ADOT meetings, monthly ADOT meeting. This time it was down in Marana. Testified on the 347, of course. They love seeing and hearing from me every month about 347, but we don't let them get away with it. So that's good. Council Member Learman attended with me, as have and do other council members on a regular basis, and that's a good thing. We did talk about leverage, which adds into the apparent new shtick that Vice Mayor Manfredi and I have talking about 347. We did a presentation here just a little bit ago in the library. I think we have another one coming up here at Province here in a little bit. But the idea is just to spread the information about where 347 is. This project is literally changing almost daily with the complications and the things that are transpiring with that. And I'll share some of those things here in just a minute. Also had the opportunity to attend a site selector meeting yesterday where we are a finalist for an industrial project. Can't talk much about it, like this is the way things go, but let's just say that it's a good opportunity when folks are zeroing in on Maricopa. I got to go and talk about who we are, what we were trying to accomplish. Much of our team was scattered across the country and even international, doing similar things, and so it was a wonderful opportunity to represent Maricopa and talk to them specifically about what we have to offer and why they should locate that particular project and their millions upon millions of dollars and hundreds of jobs that they're looking to bring here to the city of Maricopa. So those are often good times, and while we're still in competition with other cities, it is a good thing to be in the finals. We're finding ourselves more and more in those positions as we continue to work as a council and with our partners to make sure that we have the shovel-ready sites and projects ready to go so that others that come through are interested in us and want to locate here. So again, something we're working very diligently on. And I've told this before, but we have several in the queue right now that we're competing against and working with. And it's just one of those things that when the first couple break, it's kind of the dam and the tidal wave will come with it. And so we're very excited about what is up and coming. And last but not least, I wanted to give you an update as to the 347 and basically Prop 417. As Councilmember Marsh mentioned, we did talk about the PRTA, that's the Pinal Regional Transit Authority. And the way this works is that our job is to basically make the decision to present an option to the Board of Supervisors on what they should do, whether to refer that back to the ballot. When Councilmember Manfredi and I were talking at the library here recently, we were expressing some of the concerns we had because it had only been a day or two since the Supreme Court decision had come out ruling against us in Prop 417, 416. And the reality is the court said that Prop 416, the plan, is acceptable. What they said was incorrect was the two-tiered system of taxation in Prop 417. And so what they've decided to do is the Supreme Court basically scrapped the whole thing and said, look, you can go back to the voters here in November and correct that language, and if you do, there will be a certain outcome. Now, the downside is that we lose the $82 million that has already been collected on our behalf. However, there is an upside to that, and that is that there's a 4-year statute of limitations. And if the businesses don't apply for reimbursement from the Department of Revenue, then that money continues to sit there. After that time lapses, then what happens is the PRTA actually owns the money, which means that if there was, let's say, half of $82 million, or 40 or 30 or 20 or 10, whatever's left would go back to the PRTA, and therefore actually come back to us here in Pinal County to implement that plan in 416. So that's actually some really good news, because I can tell you there were businesses that went out of business. There are things that transpired in these last 4 years of collections. So while I understand, and it's a good thing that these businesses will get their money back, it's also a good thing that the Pinal County taxpayer will get to see the usage of some of that money as it comes back to you, because some of it simply won't be refunded. That's just the way it works. And so we'll actually benefit from that. Now, again, talking on Prop 417, if the PRTA recommends that the Board of Supervisors puts that back to a vote this November, while I can't sit up here and tell you to vote for it or against it, what I can tell you is that if it was to pass, it would create a different amount than was collected the first time. And so while the timing would still be about the same at 25 years, the difference would be is that we would collect, instead of $640 million, we'd collect somewhere in the neighborhood of approximately $1.1 billion. Now, why that's important to you is that you all know the cost of everything you buy has gone up significantly in the past few years. And so if we were to have stayed at $640 million, it would not have been enough to cover these projects as they've increased in cost over these years. And so it really would have actually hampered our ability to get these projects done. There just wouldn't have been enough money there. With the increase that will come from not having the two-tiered system, it actually should make up for that deficit and allow us to move forward on some of these bigger projects, which includes the widening of 347, which includes the east-west corridor. That's about $110 million under the old proposition, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million now under a new proposition, should it pass come November. So again, there's still hope on the horizon. Prop 400, as it pertains to Maricopa County, that is still moving forward in the legislature. And so as those things produce, that is a big deal for us in getting that 347 fixed and eradicated, and all those things that we want to see, from overpasses to diverging diamonds at the interchange to three lanes and minimal left-hand turns and lights along the 347. So again, things are moving in the best direction they possibly can. There's always setbacks in government, but you just can't give up. You got to keep moving forward, and you got to keep rolling with it. So yes, Councilman Marsh.
Yes, I wanted to congratulate Councilwoman Amber Lehrman and her son on the event of her son being accepted into the United States Air Force Academy.
Yeah, awesome. And then last but not least, I wanted to hit on Jim Schoaf as well. He runs the Maricopa Food Pantry. It technically is a little outside of the city limits, but we all know that someday our city limits might stretch to that location. But the reality is that people from here and all over attend his food bank. He was talking with Councilman Lehrman earlier. He's in negotiations with the high school, and if he should get the parking lot for usage during the day here coming up this weekend or next, he's actually planning on having his food bank moving forward, because while his location has burned, he's already been able to make connections through your generosity and others to establish connections with food semis that would then come forward and bear both the meats and the cold cuts and those types of cold type foods, as well as the dry goods. And so again, just something showing Maricopa, specifically Jim Schoaf and Alice Schoaf's resilience in this. And if you get a chance, please visit their website. There's lots of rooms and ways to donate. They need all that they can do, but they actually look forward to rebuilding and doing so in a much more permanent fashion than before. They would actually like to build a warehouse this time and do it the right way and have it to where it's more protected and something that can certainly benefit all of Maricopa and the surrounding area moving forward. So that concludes our report at this time, and that'll take us to the report from the city manager. Nothing at this time? Okay. That'll take us to the call to the public. I have a few speaker cards. Just to remind you, here at the podium, we have a small device there that goes from red, yellow to green, or green, yellow, red. Gives you approximately 3 minutes to speak, and that way we want to treat everybody fairly here. And so I'll start with the speaker cards I have, and then after that, anyone else would like to approach the podium, they may do so. Let's see, Kevin Teeling, Pastor Teeling, if you'd like to come up first, please do so.
And so naturally he mentions the timer when the pastor comes.
They do it for the mayor too, don't worry.
We're used to it. I want to actually begin by expressing my appreciation, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Manfredi, and the council, not only for the opportunity to give the invocation at this meeting, but just generally, not only you as the city council, but also our city staff. We moved here right at the end of 2020 to begin the church that we've established. And it's been a pleasure living here. We appreciate a government that's functioning well and that has a heart for the city. You can see that in the events, and the projects have the opportunity to attend another meeting, and so we appreciate that. It's good to have a government that's working for you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I wanted to make myself and our church available. We're a small church. But we're growing, and I think a city like Maricopa can appreciate being small and growing. And so we've come here not only to have a church and a ministry, but to make ourselves available to serve the public. And so if there's anything that we can do, I'm available. Our church is available, and we would like to do that. We pray for the city, and certainly we have a heart to serve the city. And then finally, as we're looking, it's wonderful to see many of the projects that are in place. We're excited every time we see word of some new restaurant, or my wife is still holding out hope for a Target. And so those things, and those are encouraging. The industrial project that you mentioned for the city's growth, we appreciate that. I'd like to make a general appeal and hope that there's also room in the plans of the growth from both the city government and private parties, builders, for places of worship and service, and certainly I speak as an interested party. Our schools are gracious hosts. As our community grows, it's important to have also those places that can be hosts of houses of worship, houses of service, just like our food pantry. And so I hope that will continue to be the case. And we appreciate, again, the opportunity to be part of the city. We're looking forward to good things. That's all I have. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Pastor. We appreciate it. At this time, we'd like to call up Elizabeth Howell.
Mayor, council, city manager, I'd like to report on the shred-a-thon that we had the end of February. As in past years, it was under the auspices of the Age-Friendly Committee, and we had most of the members there participating in one way or another. This was truly a community event. Copper Sky provided the location. Parks and Rec came and set up the tables and chairs in the canopy. The police volunteers came and directed traffic and collected the food from the cars that came through. And this year, for the first time, the Air Force ROTC cadets came and took the paper and dumped it into the dumpsters over to the shredders. So we had people of all ages there participating, and many of the city council members came and either participated directly or at least drove through with their paper. Thank you, Vince. We didn't do as well as we did last year, but we did have 102 cars come through. Out of that 102, we had 86 cars that donated food. The totals is amount of food donated were 730 pounds of food plus $150, and we shredded 7,400 pounds of paper. I'd like to also thank some of the people who advertised the event, Cynthia Marsh, Joan Kozar. They sent out information through their channels. Vince Manfredi made sure it got in Maricopa, and also the Maricopa Monitor. I want to tell you how much we appreciate the support from the city, and especially the city council members. And hopefully next year we'll be doing a little bit better. This was I think the Saturday that we chose was the first Saturday of good weather, so half the people in Maricopa were out of town doing family stuff. But it was still a great event, and we had a great time doing it. And thanks, Nancy, for the lunch. It was greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Next up, I have Mr. Barry McCain.
Well, good evening, Mayor Price and City Council. My name is Barry McCain from Arizona State, but I want to try something first. I want to say happy birthday to the Chief of Police. Another thing I'd like to say, Carol, the mayor's secretary, I hope you get better real quick. Yes, Malcolm X, a great debater, once said, history is not hatred. After career in the United States Navy, 2.5 years on Pinal County Comprehensive Team, Pinal County delegate to the DNC in 2012, an activist at the Arizona State Capitol since 2006, asked me to retire, candidate for the House of Representatives for four times without money, a freedom rider, and now I've been called an education terrorist. I'm still wearing that one. This past legislation has been very arduous for me. With all that, still, we had 7,700 bills. I don't know how you can get 7,700 bills, but we got something for that next year. But the one highlight, though, I have to say it. Mayor Price, watching him talk in front of the transportation was a highlight. Mayor Price, try not to blush. Anyway, you're always informed, well-prepared, self-aware, focused on developing others, ethical, civic-minded, encouraged strategic thinking, but most importantly, he understands the importance of cross-cultural communication, a true leader. I know this because I know Mayor Price. But during this session, it became very clear that we need more discussion on cross-cultural communication. I feel this way because I'm a biological dad of two highly educated, certified teachers who are African American, and my mama was. This has to be done by somebody intelligent and with experience, not someone who's assumed to be intelligent or experienced, because it's such a volatile subject that's overlooked. We need this. So I'd ask Mayor Price if you could find it in your busy schedule to have a clinic on cross-cultural communication. It would do wonders for this state. It's just been overlooked too long. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Appreciate it. You and I will follow up with that. At this time, anyone else like to approach the podium? I have no more speaker cards, but we don't need one. If you'd like to approach the podium and tell us what's on your mind for the next 3 minutes, time is yours. Please just tell us your name, as I don't have it up here with me.
John Fisher.
Hi, John.
How you doing there? There's a couple things. One is when people are entering the city,
A lot of cities now have gone to the speed limit signs that are larger, and they have the sign underneath that says what speed you're going that lights up. I know that we have the one sign or a couple of them that they roll out. It would really be helpful. We have people that fly into the city and they don't bother to slow down. And I mean, there's been some real serious accidents happen due to this. So I would like to, if you guys could address that and look at it and look into doing that.
Excellent. So we can't really respond too much to you up here because it's not agendized, but I would point to that man sitting against the wall in white. Raise your hand. That's Mike Riggs, and he runs our streets crews. So if you will talk with him about signage afterwards, that would be your guy.
Okay. And then the other thing was our schools. Special needs children. I removed my daughter from the high school this year. She got into the high school after really great time with Maricopa Wells and the teachers there and staff. She got into the high school and they really did not understand an autistic child. And I would like for someone to please look into what's going on in our school system and with who they have to take care of our children that are of special needs. I went ahead and took her out. I withdrew her, and I'm home teaching her now. There is no plan for like learning how to count money, things like that. She's never going to go to college. There's no need to teach her to go to college.
Sure.
And there's a lot of other things. The main thing that I heard from the school is she needs to be in her seat. She needs to be quiet. She's autistic. The teacher doesn't understand that. That's in the high school. The junior high teacher understood it. I just would like to have it addressed.
Understand. So again, I want to make sure that I stay within the bounds of legality here, but I know that Councilmember Learman, not to put her on the spot, is a counselor at MUSD in the school district, and I know that we all know Superintendent, who's my superintendent? Oh my goodness. Dr. Tracy Lopeman, thank you. We can make that introduction as well. But the reason I point that out is that, you know, while I certainly appreciate hearing that and we want to help in any way we can to make connections, we don't have any supervisory jurisdiction over the school district as they're an elected board and they have their own elected officials.
Right.
But certainly we can make introductions to state representatives because I know the school district has to follow a lot of state law, those types of things. So again, anything we can do to help make those connections, we're happy to do so.
Okay.
So.
One more thing. I've talked to you in person on Facebook. Thank you very much for what you did downtown. Like I told you, it brought back my history. I'm from Arizona. I grew up in the mining towns. The rocks that are laid out, people are crying about. They don't understand. This is part of our history.
It is.
This is what we live. And I appreciate the city doing that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you for your information as well today. Anyone else at this time like to approach City Council? Okay.
I want to make sure that we get to
Go for
sing
it.
a little happy birthday to our wonderful chief who works so hard. Jim, would you stand up? Maybe a lot of people in the city don't know who you are here today, but we should sing happy birthday to our chief.
All right.
Come on, Jersey, get up, boy. Happy birthday to you. To you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Jim.
Chief, I'm embarrassed for you. It's all right. I'm embarrassed for you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, audience, for your participation at Call to the Public this evening. That'll take us to item number 7 on the consent agenda. Council, before we move forward, I've had a request from the city manager to please table the following item, which is item 7.2. So if we can table that, do we need to pull that off and then table it, or do we just, okay. I'm getting conflicting information here from the city clerk and Dennis. So just pull it off? Just pull it off. Okay, good. We'll pull it off, then we'll table it. All right, and then at the same time, I'd like to pull item 7.10 for a brief presentation by Mr. Ben Bitter, and I think this is something that will interest everybody in the room. So, turn through the sound. 7.2? Yeah, they're different items, okay? So council, with your permission, I'd like to have a motion for approving the consent agenda at this time, minus items 7.2 and 7.10.
So move.
Heard Councilmember Vitiello, and would you second it, Councilmember Marsh?
Second.
Second, thank you very much. Have a first and a second. Any further discussion on these items? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, that'll take us to item 7.2, which is the request to table this item. Can I have a motion to table at this time? Is there a second? And a second, a motion and a second on the item. Is there any further discussion on item 7.2 at this time? And again, the reason for this is that there's needs to be some corrections to the language to make this truly correct. We don't want to be approving something that is incorrect, and thus the request. So without any further questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. And any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, we'll come to item 7.10 last. We'll finish with that one. Item 8.1, the mayor and city council shall discuss and take action to approve. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you up there, Ben. That's the long walk, huh? All right, well, sorry, sit down. I'm just teasing you. We could do it, but now it's just too much fun. All right, item 8.1, the mayor and city council shall discuss and take action to approve the sublease and facility usage agreement with the Maricopa Chamber of Commerce and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement and any future amendments or necessary documents related to this agreement. This is for discussion and action. All right, take it away. Who wants to start with this one? Nancy, please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. So, speaking for myself as a council member, I have over the years found that the Chamber is a very important part of a growing community. And I, for one, have supported the Chamber since its creation and have high hopes for what it can do for a city, especially a growing city like the city of Maricopa. We definitely understand, at least I do, the cyclical success, I think is the best way to put it, of our Maricopa Chamber of Commerce. We've had very, very high points and some lower points, and it seems to bounce back and forth. And so looking for a recipe of success that allows us to get to a certain level of high performance and sustaining, the city definitely is interested through this contract in partnering with the Chamber of Commerce. And we see this, we've helped in many ways in the past as a city, and we see this as probably a last opportunity to try and create a partnership that becomes valuable for the city as a whole and the businesses within the city of Maricopa, and for the residents as well. So what I'd like to do is to make a proposal to modify what's in the current contract, by proposing that the current contract states that it's a one-year contract with the renewal for 2 additional years. And I would like to keep that the same, but basically change the fact that it goes from a free lease to a $200 per month lease for the first year, a $400 a month lease for the second year, and a $700 month lease for the third year. Along with that, I think that we definitely have to establish what is this partnership and what are the deliverables that come with this partnership. Within the contract, it talks about the directory, the business directory, and I think a business directory can be very, very valuable to the city of Maricopa. It helps residents, it helps other businesses understand what is available within our city. It currently, I'm fine with the directory as part of the partnership and deliverable. It currently states that the city is stating that there's a $25 fee to add your business to the registry. I'd like to strike that $25 fee and leave that to the chamber to understand what that fee structure would be for them. But I do like the fact that the directory is available and that they would maintain that directory of businesses. I would also like to say that the deliverables would include an annual report to the City Council on what the progress and performance has been for the Chamber of Commerce. I would also like to state that a deliverable is that the Chamber hires an executive director within a 6 to 9 month period. An executive director is something that they've had, not had, and it's very easy and evident to see that when an executive director is present, that the chamber succeeds at a higher level. So we'd like to see that one of the deliverables is that they hire and maintain an executive director within 6 to 9 months of the contract. We'd also like to state that a deliverable, I would like to state that a deliverable includes a business plan indicating what their business plan is with specifics such as what programs would you provide for business retention within the city, as well as increasing business memberships within the chamber, and that business plan be available in a 3 to 6 month window from the time that the contract is signed. I would like to put in there that the City Council have a joint meeting with the chamber in 6 months to understand what the status is and how the chamber is improving in regards to its membership and its ability to help businesses within the city. And then lastly, that a council member be assigned as a non-voting member on the chamber board. So I would be amicable to agreeing to a contract that includes those changes to the contract as it's currently stated.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments or concerns or questions or thoughts, council members?
I think Dennis is catching.
Oh, yeah. Councilmember Wade, did you have something?
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor? Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that in the proposals that have been put forth, that the community understand that these are joint requests or suggestions and requirements, which goes towards the fact that council members basically had an opportunity for discussion and thought that these might be reasonable and presented for conversation here.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate it. Any other discussions or additions you'd like to make to this contract or takeaways? This is what has been presented by Councilmember Smith. Yes, Vice Mayor. Have something?
Not me.
No, Vice Mayor.
That was
Did you?
discussion, or was that a proposal?
Well, that's part of the discussion. That's what she has suggested thus far.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, is there anything more? And I was going to move to Councilmember Learman if you don't have something.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Learman.
One thing I'm really looking forward to are strategies for business retention and looking at strategically how would they hope to do that. And also with the annual presentation, it would be great if they would present that here at a city council meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my question was that a motion right there?
No, that's a proposal.
So you have to
Proposal
repeat the
for,
whole thing.
I can do that.
I was going to second your motion.
You want to put the motion in and
No, you
state
can,
it?
You can do it.
And we can make this pretty simple. I mean, we can go back and say as been presented. This has all been video recorded. We don't have to repeat it all because it's so lengthy. But again, we got to give the opportunity for any other council members to input to that if there was anything else you wanted to see along those lines. And again, I think I would add to the fact that, again, I was, reminiscing on this here in the fact that, in my time on this council that, there was a time in which we used to, they performed a service for us. They were the information center, right? The business center, the information center. And so, they were at a certain location. And so, this ended up being something where we felt that there was a time that it just didn't fit anymore. And so, we had to make that painful decision as we were going through budgetary cuts and other things to take away that help to the chamber, if you will. And so, it's interesting to see that now that we have a building by which that we can negotiate with them to hopefully create some routes. I would make the equation of a ship that is having a rudder added to it. It certainly helps direct them a little bit more. But again, this is not us telling them what to do. This is what we are requesting if they would like to use the space. This is up to them to accept the contract or not. They certainly can counter-propose if they so desire, but this council can say take it or leave it either way. I really think this is an opportunity to see, the city of Maricopa does our best through economic development to attract business here and to help grow those small businesses where we can, as well as large businesses. But the chambers of commerce really are the experts in helping small peer-to-peer businesses succeed and get off the ground and retain. And so I think there's an equation to understanding that each of us want to stay in our lane. We're not, again, telling them what they can and can't do. We're simply providing a location for them to promote, a location for them to be housed, one in which their name is on the wall. It really is within a quick stretch from the main road, so it does put them in place for a visitor center type of thing again, which helps bring in more business and helps increase their business. And so, there's all kinds of possibilities here with this if they choose to go down that route. And so again, I would support this in the fact that I really like the deliverables. I like what has been suggested and proposed. I think it is a fair balance between what in the contract the city and therefore the taxpayers get, as well as what the city gives, and hopefully helps that overall raising of businesses here in the city of Maricopa, so that raising tide lifts all ships. And again, helping everybody stay in their own lane, and therefore not requiring us to do more than what we're capable of, as we're just not the experts in retention of small businesses. They are, and so that really lends to them. So again, with that, I would certainly hope that we can motion to approve that as it stands and see what the chamber does in response. And hopefully they'll take us up on that offer and we can move forward with a positive, all-in stakeholder group of the city and the chamber and businesses collectively working together for success here in this city. So with that, is there any other discussion that needs to be had at this time? Any other suggestions? With that, I would turn it back to Nancy for a potential motion.
Yes, Mayor. I would like to motion that we approve the contract as stated with the modifications that I mentioned earlier.
And with the one modification
And
that
with, yes.
Councilmember Learman added as well. Okay, that is the motion. Is there a second? Okay, and there's a second. And would you repeat your modification again?
I was requesting that the annual report be delivered here at a city council meeting.
And there was another deliverable, though.
Right, the business retention.
Yeah, a strategic plan for business retention.
How's that one? Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, further discussion?
Yeah, not further discussion. I just wanted to say, when I first seen the agenda item for this, and we've had discussions about it in the past, and we've come back with this bit of information because as your council members, we're required to be good fiduciaries of the taxpayer money. So when it comes down to it, we're building a building. We're gonna have this building for economic development and other things that we'll have in it, and it's over in Estrella Gin. And when I looked at it, I wanted to make sure, and that's why we had a discussion, is we wanted to make sure that the money that we're putting into this building is going to be well used. So that's why we're putting this stuff in here. We're not trying to be the parents of the chamber or tell the chamber how to run their business. But if they would like to use the building that we have available, there's just a couple things that we wanted. So I hope they see it that way, and I hope they do accept what we're giving to them because it is a great opportunity for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right. Again, we have a motion and a second on the table. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the proposal, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, council members, for your participation and your discussion. That'll take us to item 8.2, which is the resolution 22-20, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council, the City of Maricopa, Arizona, adopting the policy guidelines and application procedures for the establishment of community facilities districts. This is for discussion and action. Please. Matt.
All right, all right.
I was going to call it Matt or Mike or Matt or Mike or Mike or Matt, whatever.
Joe.
Well, now we know that both work,
Exactly.
historically speaking. So
The answers
we're
to
good.
both. It's excellent.
So,
Thanks, Matt.
Good evening, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Manfredi, council members. Appreciate your time. A few months ago, we did a presentation for you guys on the possibility of community facilities districts as an economic development tool for the city. And the request from council was for us to go back as a staff and establish the appropriate policies and procedures if we wanted to move forward with this as a tool. And we have done that. So we will get started by showing you a couple of the old slides to refresh memories from any of the prior conversations and go from there. So again, what can CFD developments accomplish? These are things that communities in Arizona have used as economic development tools to build large developments and communities. East Mark and Mesa is one of the most well-known, but these are very popular tools throughout Arizona. Goodyear leverages them on a regular basis, and this is something that we as a city want to consider strategically when they make sense. So this is an old slide as well, why use CFDs? CFDs are an economic development tool for enhanced infrastructure, landscaping, water systems, roads, the things that a community of a large size would need, and developers are looking for accelerated reimbursement to construction financing to get that project up and out of the ground. So where we are at in this process is really, at the end of the day, step one. In this chart, for instance, step one is actually adopt local goals and policies prior to the desire to initiate a CFD. Now, where we are at with our CFD policy that's in front of you tonight is there are three considerations that we really put in front of you strategically that we wanted to stick to: operational, council-driven / partnership-driven, and fiscal. So I'm not going to read through all of these at the end of the day, but some of the important operational considerations that we have put into this policy that we want to highlight. One of them, of course, is that second bullet: a key tenet of this policy is the financial protection of property owners within a CFD. And the third bullet, which is, unless otherwise agreed to by the City Council, the CFD will be governed by a board of directors comprised of the City Council members. This way, the best interests of the citizens are at consideration by the council themselves. These highlights right here for partnership and council-driven considerations lay out some of the application requirements and expectations of anybody who would enter into a CFD opportunity with us. In this case, their experience with similar projects, they would have to have a signed petition in favor of the creation of a CFD, estimated costs of construction, insurance and indemnification. This is a big one. They have insurance requirements. And at the bottom there, full disclosure of CFD existence to prospective property owners. That one is critical. That was something that you had asked of us, and that is in this policy. A CFD operating plan that includes feasibility studies, marketing plans, how to go to market for bonds, pretty much anything you can imagine. And then the last one, which is critical, which is an actual development agreement. These development agreements are really, at the end of the day, what will establish the expectations and requirements of any CFDs that are set up. The last part of this, here are some of the fiscal considerations and the application requirements that come along with this. You can see, for instance, that there's a $15,000 application fee to cover administrative review costs. There is a $50,000 at minimum non-refundable administrative expense fee once a CFD is established. The reason policies like this exist is that anybody who wants to do something of this nature is going to put up some money and show that they are committed to this project and not just going to walk away from it, right? The fiscal responsibilities of a CFD separate the city from any of the bond or financial requirements by setting one up. So this shows that when we go into this agreement with them, that they are actually committed to doing something. And these are, at the end of the day, just the minimums that the policy is going to state. We can do anything we want with that development agreement that we want to request and expect of them at the end of the day. Any of the costs of issuing bonds can be applied to them. We have the ability to control the fiscal responsibility of these agreements, which is something that, again, was asked of us by council, and we have made sure as a part of this policy. So obviously in a 12-page policy, there's a lot of things to go through, but if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, yes, go ahead, City Manager.
Mayor and council, you know this, but for the sake of our media and others who may be listening in, just to clarify, this is for new development. It does not put the city or taxpayers at risk. It is for the new development and the future owners of those parcels or lands, not existing taxpayers. So it's isolated to the districts, and the city is protected as indicated. So I just want to draw that observation that this is specific to a project and does not have any application citywide, any burden on our taxpayers.
So the question I have is, I certainly appreciate the policies and procedures that have been put in place, and some of the things that we'd asked for have been brought before us here, and I appreciate that. I guess the question I have is that where do we strike the balance here? And just so the audience knows, again, you know, a CFD is where, you know, it's typically the developer asking permission from us to put something like this in place that allows for this, right? And then once it's in place, then they can utilize it to upscale things, right? They can make things nicer. And so you talked about earlier about, you know, strategically where it makes sense.
Right.
But yet there's oftentimes, and as I look back over the history of our city, there have been times in which developers really, really want to over-rely on them because they see it as a way to charge the same amount per house from a profit standpoint, yet charge an extra amount on top of that house and therefore get a nicer area out of it that didn't come out of their own pockets, right? Sure. And so that makes sense at times when you create something really, really nice. But if it's only sub-nice or substandard, how do we as a city allow for that particular situation? And that's really kind of what I'm looking to get on the record here, is that where do we find that balance? Where do we find that ability to say that this one really qualifies, but this one not so much?
Sure. So there's a couple of things there. Number one, any of these application requirements, fees, or anything, at the end of the day, there is still no obligation to create the CFD in the first place. Even if they pay that application fee, we are under no obligation to establish it with them if we are not satisfied with the fiscal responsibility of the agreement. Number two, there is actually a section in here towards the end on page 10 that says any economic advantage or the estimated savings, if any, to residents in the form of reduced purchase prices, enhanced public services, additional community benefits, et cetera, that are projected to result from CFD financing. So we actually, in that situation, sort of have some leverage on them to make sure that they either deliver on the high level of expectations that they are setting, or that they are supposed to deliver those savings back to the citizens in the form of reduced purchase prices. So because you guys represent as the board members in that case, you are able to, you know, more or less put them in a situation where they either have to put it up or put it back into the back end.
Okay. And Mayor Council, if I can add a third, you saw on the slide that it requires a development agreement.
Yep.
And the development agreement is what would control those aspects you're looking for.
Perfect.
And if they're not willing to rise up to the standard we're looking, we don't have to fund it, or we may fund part or none or whatever makes sense. And the other 2 or 3 words in there was case by case, because each one's going to be different. There is no set standard per se, other than application of the rules will be consistent and standard, but every project's different in what they would present to be billed, and we have to look at it, you know, what's the value to the public, what's the value to the overall city, you know, all those things. But again, the development agreement is where we will tie them down to those specifics that we're looking for.
Okay. John, would you like to speak to the subject? Yeah. Would you come up here, please? And then I'll have you fill out a form afterwards, okay? Go ahead and come on up. Come up to the podium before you talk, just so you're on the record there for everyone listening in.
With doing the developments in the different areas, what I'm concerned about is, say a developer.
Sir, can you get closer to
Right in
the
front of the microphone. There you go.
Say a developer has this subdivision or this retail area, and what they want to do is they want to focus and bring people into that area. So what they do is they don't make it for all of us. They put it in their development area, when maybe it should go in a place like over by Copper Sky or something like that, where the whole community can use it if they're really wanting to invest this and make it for the community, and not to just attract people to their development. I mean,
Mayor.
it is or it isn't.
Thank you, John, for the question, and let's let the city manager answer that.
So again, this is mostly for public infrastructure. We're talking about sexy things like water and sewer and gas lines and roads. But at the same time, these developers pay an impact fee. Now, impact fees do go to citywide benefit. We have a park impact fee, we have a police impact fee, we have a fire impact fee, we have a transportation impact fee, and those funds that they will pay because they're negatively impacting the city by growth, so they have to pay to get rid of that impact or to mitigate that impact. And then we take those funds and we have a 5-year CIP program where we build the roads or build the parks or those things that the entire community can benefit from.
Right. I understand that, but also I see these areas where, like the parks, are only for those.
Sir?
You gotta come back up here. That's okay.
And I'd be happy to answer all these questions after the meeting because
Right.
we're kind of getting off topic.
I see where these parks are made in these housing areas. Other people from the city are not allowed to use them. That's what these developers have done time and time again. And
Sir, I understand
what you're saying
those are
about the
private
money
parks, though. They're not city-owned
But we
parks.
also support those things.
No, we don't. We don't pay for any of those.
We don't?
No, sir.
Nobody pays their taxes? Nobody helps?
Those are HOA, I'd be happy to talk with you after the meeting.
For police and such?
I'll be happy to talk with you after the meeting, but those are private parks.
Right, so just, there's a whole bunch of understanding here. We want to make sure that you get your understanding so that you see the distinction. Yeah, let's cover some of that after the meeting, because what we're focused on here is legalese. We're talking about the CFD specifically to this issue, so.
All right.
But we certainly want to make sure you get your
Is-
answer.
Is the private thing that
Yeah,
they
this-
do with most of them is just shouldn't be.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it afterwards on that issue. Matt, yes, question?
So Matt, for my own understanding, as well as I think citizens would benefit from this question as well. So a CFD allows them to put the infrastructure in that might be a higher cost, higher value than something that they would have traditionally done. So they apply an assessment, right, to those that purchase in that area, that CFD area.
Correct.
Does that CFD ever go away once that infrastructure is paid for? Or is it always something that's there for eternity as long as the property exists?
So the CFD as an organization will tend to exist as long as you want it to. Historically in Arizona, what will happen is whatever financial obligation that is agreed to, let's in this case call them assessment bonds because we really don't want to do a GO bond at the end of the day. Once those financial obligations are paid down, the purpose of the CFD is more or less complete, right? So you as the board would have the ability to say, all right, we're going to go ahead and shut this down as an operation.
That's a positive, yeah, that's a positive.
Historically speaking, just for full transparency, more often than not, they just no longer require any operations, so nobody really just shuts them down. They just sort of exist, but there's
they
no...
stop the assessment?
Yeah, the assessment's paid off, the bonds are paid
Got it.
off, all the financial obligations and
Very good.
operational obligations are complete.
Okay.
So yes, it is complete at that point. Whether or not you would want to power it down is choice of council.
Very good. Thank you. That helps a lot.
If I could just add to that, there's lots of options too. A home builder may come in and buy 400 lots, and they may choose to pay off that allotment up front, and they can do that and get exempted out, so there's no longer any of that to deal with. So there's lots of different variations of how that can happen. The key is just that it gets paid, but the advantage to a builder paying it up front is, of course, it's cheaper in the long run, right? You don't pay 5, 6, 8, 12 years of interest. So there are tools that allow that, but they're paid by the end user.
Councilmember Marsh.
Well, my understanding is that the developer can use the funds from the sale of bonds to build something wonderful.
Yes.
To raise the attractiveness of the development. And the CFD dissolves after the bonds are paid off. A lot of infrastructure built into our subdivisions requires a reserve fund to cover ongoing maintenance, water supply, electric supply, repairs, replacements. How does that get handled with the CFD model?
So the CFD is a standalone organization that has its own, it has to stand alone from a financial and operational perspective, completely separate from the city. So those financial obligations would be taken care of by the CFD itself. And
Well,
it collects its,
Let me just clarify.
Go ahead.
The owner of the asset is not the CFD. It may be the HOA, it could be the home builders, it could be a private homeowner. They have that responsibility.
Yeah.
So whoever owns the asset at the end of the day, which in most cases is going to be an HOA, would have that responsibility. It would not be the taxpayers paying for it, it would be the HOA members
Correct.
paying for it, and they would buy into that project knowing what they're buying into up front. So once the CFD or the principal and interest is paid off, that's dissolved and there's nothing left to be done with it.
Typically, the HOA reserve fund would cover it,
Right.
Well,
cover the maintenance.
HOAs do and HOAs don't. You know, they're a private entity and they do their own thing, but
They're supposed
the
to.
better ones that have professional management should do that. And keep in mind, we're mostly talking about, roads and streets and water and sewer, but it does free up their money to put more money into their HOA parks or those other amenities.
Well, and the other thing that you see here as well is that, and this has always been something that we've wrestled with here in Maricopa, but, it's in our early lifespan, but now I think we're coming out of that, which is really exciting to see. And I think honestly, this is the right time. I mean, there was a time in which the legislature and the home builders went after all cities and towns saying that everybody had to do CFDs. And, I really think that diminishes them, right? Because it makes them all uniform and that's just not appropriate in my opinion. And the reason is that what you get out of this, when I look at Eastmark specifically, where I look at some of these developments that have all of these amenities that are tied into it, what it does is it raises the price of those homes. So from a home builder / homeowner perspective, if someone wants that, they can go to it. And it also then attracts other development around that because of the folks that are locating there, right? So you have this double whammy of economic development that wants to come in from retail to industrial to light manufacturing, et cetera, all on those outskirts, while simultaneously, it's more than, if you're looking at what it's doing for me now, then you may not see it. But if you understand that in the course of 10 years, you own that home and you bought it at early stage one, and then Eastmark gets developed and it's finished and you've enjoyed those amenities for 10 years, and now your home is worth $1.8 million and you bought it for $400,000, then you more than got that your return on that investment. Plus, because of all those extra amenities, extra things, and it's that supply and demand. It helps push the demand of that area specific to any other areas around it up, right? So I think we could do the same here in Maricopa in a small fashion, and I don't mean to pick on anybody or say anybody's better than anybody else, but I think that, when you compare HOAs to amenities, I think that it's arguably the Villages has some of the most amenities of any, right? And yet they pay a higher HOA dues for that. Now, they didn't do a CFD, but my point is that, that they get sought after a little bit more than the average HOA simply because of those. But they are responsible for paying them through the reserve study and other things. So I think it is interesting what it can provide here as a city, dynamically uses them strategically in conjunction with the home developer. You can get really, really nice areas out of it.
And I also wanted to mention that, remember, when a developer builds, they build on-site improvements, but they also have to build off-site improvements. So if the traffic requires a traffic signal or a road to be widened or a new turn lane put in, those all benefit the general public, but are only paid for by the project. So those offset improvements are a part of that. And lastly, I think we put in here a minimum acreage. Somewhere in here I saw minimum acreage. I just want to clarify that when it comes to a commercial retail project, it's not based on acreage, it's based on value.
Right. Cool. Henry, go ahead. Councilman Wade.
I had a question, and you kind of hit on it just now, Mr. City Manager. On the impact fees, do they have to be done within a certain time frame? And is there a possibility to shift impact fees from one area to another?
No, the impact fee is collected by the city, and the city determines how and when that money will be spent. The only rule is we have to spend it within a 10-year window based on a infrastructure improvement plan that's been approved by the city council and vetted by the public.
Okay. So there aren't controls over outside of what the developer might put.
Yeah, the infrastructure improvement plan is a city-driven prospect. It's not developer-driven at all.
Exactly. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, so Councilmember Manfredi just asked, and we talked about this, is that in a young city that is trying to accomplish things that are not very sexy, such as flood control mitigation, right? That's one of the reasons that you would want something like this, is that it can allow for those very costly infrastructure that someone that owns that property needs to fix it before they can build on it. That way it allows both entities to be able to utilize the value that they're deriving from it. It's now fixed. They don't have to pay flood insurance. They're not having to be in a flood zone. The banks will actually lend money to that developer so they can build. It's a win-win for everybody, but yet it's got to be fixed somewhere along the way. So sometimes it's things for things not quite as sexy as cool economic development stuff. Sometimes it's for real basics as flood mitigation.
Yeah, and the reason I asked it and I said it is because when you look at it, people are looking at this and saying, oh, I'm going to get a golf course or a big lake or something. This is not meant for it. Really, it's not. It's really meant for taking a big mile swath of the middle of the city of Maricopa and allowing the people that own that land to actually develop it, because right now it's flood. Right, so they'd be able to actually develop that land eventually, and the rest of the city of Maricopa won't be responsible for that. It would be the people that are actually going to be buying houses in that parcels of land who are going to be paying for it, not existing taxes on homeowners that are currently living here. So it's not a tax on the new people, on the people that currently live here, but basically a way for other people that want to live here to be able to live here and pay for the improvements they need before they can. And it's mostly, as city manager mentioned, it's for new development. So I don't want people to get worried and scared and think we're putting a new tax on them, that they're going to pay a ton of tax money for somebody to have a new shiny development. It's really not. It allows people to develop in pieces of land where they can't right now. Thanks.
Any other questions or concerns on this item at this time? This item is for discussion and action tonight. Council, have you had your questions answered? If so, can I have a motion on this item, please? I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this item before it moves? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information, staff. That was very helpful. This is 8.3. This is ordinance 22-07. This is of the Maricopa City Council, amending sections 2-15-010 and 215-.060G of the Maricopa City Code, relating to start time for the regular city council meetings and the time allotted to each speaker during the call to public. So the question that I had so there's a little bit of cleanup going on here. And that is that we have traditionally, from the dais, and you hear me say it all the time, is that we provide 3 minutes for speakers, and that is because we typically in this arena have a lot of speakers, and I think that's great to have that participation. But our city code has said 5. Is there still some discretion in there? Is there still the ability to have discretion from the seat here for that, or is it locked in stone that it's 3 minutes only?
Mr. Mayor, you're the chairman of the meeting, so I think you can always have some discretion on how you handle the meeting. So.
Perfect. Yeah, of course we want to be fair to everybody, and so that's why we announced 3 minutes. That's why I set the timer, and we try and go with that. But sometimes there's reason for that discretion. So that was my only question on the cleanup. And then as it states here, we are trying to start the meeting times a little earlier. We're trying to have some flexibility here and move them to 6 p.m. instead of 7. And so that is what is being proposed here. Is there any concerns or questions on this at this time? Is there a motion then?
So just for clarity,
yes, please, Councilman Wade.
We're only talking about the meeting time.
Can you please repeat that, Councilman?
Yeah, I just asked. We're just talking about moving the meeting time earlier, not turning the time on call to the public to 5 minutes.
Oh. Okay, so if I'm...
Yeah, I'm just clarifying. We're not changing the 3 minutes. We're just changing the start time for the meeting.
No, so there is a clarifier cleanup. The code says 5. We have traditionally done 3. We're cleaning up to 3. and yet there's still discretion from this seat that it could be more than 3 if needs be. So that is part of this. And then the other portion is moving the meeting time to 6.
Okay, yeah, I got it. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
May I make the motion that we?
Sure, please proceed.
Do so, make the motion that we have the discretion to start or to conduct calls to the public for 5 minutes if so needed, and to move the the city council meetings from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Councilor Wade. Can we have you rephrase that though? And again, the cleanup is moving it from 5 to 3 minutes, but that 3 minutes can extend to 5 if needs be. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, hold on a second.
Councilmember Wade can just move to pass the ordinance if he's in agreement.
Right,
and just make
right.
a motion to pass.
So let's just do this the easy way, Councilor Wade. If you would move to pass the ordinance as it's written, then that would be in agreement with what you were trying to say.
That's fine. Let's do this. Let's go for that then. That is my motion.
Thank you. So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Second, Councilmember Learman. Is there any further discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay? And Ben, you're up. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you walking earlier. I'm going to make you do the long walk again. This is item 7.10, and this is to do with 347 widening project. Take it away.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, both for the opportunity to present as well as to meet my move goal on my Apple Watch. That was fantastic. We wanted to discuss this project that we have with ADOT coming up. This action item is specifically to enter into an IGA so that we can do this project, or more specifically, ADOT can do this project. This part is very important. State Route 347 is owned and maintained by ADOT, and that's set by state statute. And I actually copied that little section of state statute down below so you can see that. The exclusive control and jurisdiction over state routes and all state-owned transportation systems or modes are vested in the Department of Transportation. So when we get questions about State Route 347, State Route 238, this is the exact reference in state statute as to why we have no jurisdiction. And so it's something that we constantly bring up. That being said, obviously, State Route 347 is at the top of our priority list. We want to do all that we can to advance projects and to make sure that those are moving forward. This project is a little unique, and we'll explain a little bit as we get into the, details of the project. Typically, as State Route 347 is owned by ADOT and operated by ADOT, they would be responsible for all of the improvements. Well, things are kind of changing at the state level. And as part of this agreement, we are going to pitch in a cost because, again, we want this roadway to improve as quickly as possible. We don't want this sitting on an agenda somewhere, going down some pigeonhole and not happening. So we wanted to make sure that happens. And so our share of this $4.1 million project is $2 million. And it has a little plus sign there because ADOT has requested if this project does increase in cost that we cover the overage. So we're in, ready to go, and we have our estimate and hope that it stays close to that or goes below that. But just so everyone is aware, we could end up paying more than $2 million on the project. We could seek some potential amendment for the IGA if there are increases in costs. As we've talked about many times on staff level and certainly with council, over the last year, ADOT has experienced a 30% increase in construction costs. And over the last 6 years, they've seen a 174% increase in costs. And so tremendous increase in these types of projects. It's very expensive and it takes a long time. As such, you can see the anticipated project schedule up here. We're already working with ADOT so that they can get the package out to a design firm, that engineering firm can then design the project, which we'll show you here in the next few slides. That will take about a year. After that project is designed, and this is just from State Route 238 or Smith-Inky up to the city limits, just that one section there is what we're talking about for this project. After that's designed, then it will go to bid for construction, which is a few months process, and then they'll start the construction, which will be about a year. So best case scenario, we're looking about the end of 2024 before this roadway is complete. And again, this is going back to the original slide where we mentioned the state statute and ADOT has the jurisdiction. We're in their ballpark, we're playing with their ball and with their bat. And so we're doing all we can to speed up the process, but we will be at the table and trying to do all we can. One important thing to note before I show you the map of the project is that right now, obviously some of the roadway is in poor condition, specifically the northbound lanes. Those are going to be taken care of as part of this project. So when the project is complete, the one southbound lane up to Lakeview, from the city limits to Lakeview, will be resurfaced. That one got left out because we'll be doing some amendments on that side of the roadway as well. And then all of the northbound roadway on 347 from Smith Inky to the city limits again will be resurfaced, and it will be like new pavement. So that is part of this project. It is coming. Now, just real quickly, I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is one portion of the whole 347 master plan. Again, we are focused on this. This is something we are talking about daily with ADOT, with our partners. This IGA that we would be approving tonight is only the beginning for the master project. As you can see at the bottom, the funding is the biggest issue. This is about a $350 million improvement to create 6 lanes from the Queen Creek interchange on I-10 all the way through town to the south end. So this is a major project. Of the $350 million, we are lacking a lot. We still have $200 million that we've got to find somewhere, whether that's the state budget, whether that's federal earmarks, whether that's federal allocations through a competitive grant process. Whatever that is, we'll have to determine that in the coming years. So as it relates specifically to this project, as you look at these maps, the right-hand side is north, so that'll kind of give you an idea. On this image, you can see Smith Inky or State Route 238. That's a current project as well that we're working on re-engineering that intersection. Those improvements will be a separate project with ADOT. So that's coming too, but again, separate project from this specific IGA, which is talking about increasing capacity, adding lanes from this intersection to the city limits. So we start about where the entrance is to Freddy's or Chipotle and head northbound from there. Again, this whole section where the purple lane is, that is the additional lane, so an additional through lane through this section. Again, as you're heading northbound and you start approaching the light at Cobblestone and or Lakeview, however your preference there, an additional turn lane there so that we can, or the turn lane so that we can have the additional through lane.
Can I ask you a question? What's that going to do to our new median if you had another lane?
Yeah, all of this work, and we'll get to that discussion as well, but all of this work has been anticipated as part of the roadway beautification. So a lot of times when we hear comments from the public about why the boxes of rocks are close to one side or the other, that was done with anticipation of the future roadway alignment with this project. And so by the time this project is complete, those monuments will effectively look like they're in the middle of the median, which is how it was designed and how anticipated. Another important aspect of this project is that the Lakeview Drive exit to head northbound, that will add an additional right turn lane, and it will have an acceleration lane coming out of there towards the city limits. And so again, we're doing all we can to maximize capacity through this area. Obviously, once you hit the city limits, things are going to go back down to the 2 lanes. So that's again an ADOT project that's out of our purview. We're going to push as much as we can for them to get the 3rd lane all the way through there, knowing that obviously that's sometime in the future. So we'll do what we can. We'll get that 3rd lane in there as much as we can, as quickly as we can, and move forward from there. And with that, Mayor and Council, happy to answer any further questions you may have.
Council questions?
More of a comment than a question. A lot of times, and I'm on social media a lot, I guess. And a lot of times you have the people complain about, just like you mentioned, the median we didn't do all of the median, and that's why. And I tell them that's why. But it shows what the council is doing, what the city is doing, is we're working towards the 3 lanes before ADOT is working for the 3 lanes. And we can only do what we can do within city limits, right? So the money that we're pushing out, what we're doing here is all within the city limits, up to city limits. And then the other work, the slide you showed with the extra lanes, you know, and all that, what will happen many years from now or years from now is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about what's happening in city limits. I don't want people to get too excited when they hear a 3rd lane on 347. It's up to right when you leave town, then it's gonna shoot back down. So people better learn how to do a zipper merge because it's important to know.
You got it.
Thanks.
Ben, as it pertains to, you know, the ADOT timing on the slide, you had a few slides back. Clearly, I understand that, you know, design, let's see if I remember it right there. There you go. Design engineering, bid for contracting construction. I know they love to take 18 months to put something on the street, which is just astronomical to me, but that's the way they are. And I get construction. Is there anything, at least in the bid contracting construction, I don't know if we can speed up design engineering, but is there anything that we can do as a council to help pressure ADOT to, you know, again, I'll continue to be at these meetings. Other members of the council will be at these meetings moving forward, but certainly is there anything we can do to help, you know, accelerate that, because we drive on this road too.
Thanks, Mayor. And I think that that is some of the value that we're getting with our $2 million is that we're going to have a seat at the table the whole time. So as ADOT is going through their review process, as they're selecting their design team, as they're going through the engineering process, as all of these steps that have to happen are happening, we're going to be there and we're going to be telling them to push the gas pedal down. Good. So as much as we can, obviously, at the end of the day, this is still an ADOT project and an ADOT roadway, but we are going to do all we can and certainly communicate that with you and the members of the council so that that can be shared with the public and or the powers that be at ADOT. So,
any other questions? Yes, Councilmember.
Ben, on the southbound side turning into Lakeview, they're going to extend the left-hand turn into Rancho. I know, but like 6 times longer, 7 times longer, because that's a huge issue in the morning, afternoon coming home, is that those cars are backed up at least, I'd say, at least a half mile to a mile to try to only turn, which now you only have 1 lane coming into Maricopa. So is that turning lane going to be quite extensive?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Councilmember Vitello. We don't have that exact number today because that's part of the design process. We can spitball it and say it's hundreds of feet. We know that it's going to be pulled back, and again, if you go and look at the median improvements that we've made, you can see and kind of start to envision where some of that occurs. But it will certainly be pulled back. We want that longer queuing. Again, as much capacity as we can get out of this roadway, we're going to do it and maximize that to the greatest extent. We're going to squeeze the lemon not just once, but 6 times to see how many drops of juice we can get out of it.
I'd encourage these people to go stand out there in July and August, southbound side, and see how many people wait to make that left-hand turn. So anyway, I'm just saying it's one of the biggest things I hear, along with the Lakeview 3rd right turn lane only.
Correct.
And Mike has done a great job. He actually painted those lines a couple of years ago, and I've actually asked to get a sign up because somebody always loves to not turn right at 7:30 in the morning and block everybody because they have to go straight into cobblestone.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate that. And again, the dedicated acceleration lane out of there will make a tremendous impact for that community as well.
Appreciate it. That's it.
Councilmember Marsh.
ADOT is data-driven, like so many government operations are. Are we actively tracking traffic versus capacity?
Yeah, so the easiest way I can explain it is that roadways are classified by a level of service, kind of like you get on a report card at school, A, B, C, D, E. And frankly, we're not passing on the 347 right now. And so particularly, you know, I mentioned the engineering improvements that we're making at the Smith Inky and 347 intersection, that's having a lot of impact downstream as well.
But are we actively tracking? Are we counting cars and trucks?
Correct, yeah, we do have accurate road counts, vehicle counts as far as how many are going through there per day. We can get those at a second's notice.
So if we're exceeding capacity for 2 lanes, how long can we go with 3, and do we need to look forward to 4?
Again, I think that there's a lot of factors that come into play here. If we create a loop road and pull some of the truck traffic off, if we extend queue lanes, if we eliminate certain turning movements like U-turns that exist at the Smith-Inky and the 347 intersection right now, all of those types of things have impacts that mitigate down the road. And so as we implement those things and run the traffic models, we can start to see how those impact the level of service. And so again, we're doing all of those on a regular basis in conjunction with ADOT and their planning team.
Thank you.
Council, keep in mind, traffic patterns will change over time. When the east-west corridor gets in, when the loop road, if we're successful getting that in, as we create more jobs and retail opportunities here so they don't have to drive up there for jobs and shopping, all that affects it. And so, that will determine it. But if you look at some of the main corridors, like going into Queen Creek and all, you see that 6 lanes carries it well because they've been able to balance the traffic. Right now, we still have 84% of our employed population heading that way. What happens when that's only 50%? And that number will come. So that will change. And keep in mind, too, on our long-range plan, we're still looking at light rail or high-speed rail as alternatives for, way down the road. But, so there's just a lot of moving fronts on all of this. But it's, one of the problems with Federal Highway Administration, and I think most of our ADOTs of the world, they always look for the 50-year solutions and require you to get the 50-year solution, which is almost can't do it. My answer is, can't we just solve the next 20 years right now, and then we'll work on the next 20, maybe step ourselves into it? And that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is change that thought pattern. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, because right now it's nothing. So let's do something. And if we solve the problem for the next 20 years, then it's easier to solve the next step. We've heard the mayor repeat this theory multiple times in his meetings with the transportation committees. So
I'll bring my clicker. He's volunteering to stand out there and click for it.
Count the cards.
And we always have Rich out there with his signs waving.
And a clicker. All right, council, any other questions on this particular topic or item at this time? If not, can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Oh.
All right, sorry. I got so moved over there, you get the second. Sorry. All right, with that, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, you are going back to executive session here, so can I have a motion to close this meeting and return to executive session, please? What's that? So moved. Second from the Councilmember Wade. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much for attending this evening. We will see you in 2 weeks.